She would rather dump trays of fresh food into the trash than give even a crumb to the hungry. Every night, this bakery throws away what could feed dozens, because the boss forbids sharing. Watch how wealth and pride waste what the poor beg for. Velda was not born cruel, at least not in the way the world came to know her. But by the time her name was carved into golden letters above polished storefronts, her heart had long hardened into stone. To her customers, she was the queen of luxury baking, the woman who turned bread into art and cakes into status symbols. People lined up outside her shops at sunrise just to be seen carrying a little box stamped with her logo. Newspapers called her a genius. Magazines praised her discipline and uncompromising vision. But the people who worked in her kitchens, who scrubbed her floors, who handled her pastries with trembling hands, knew the truth. Velda was not a visionary. Velda was a tyrant. Her staff lived in constant fear of her footsteps clicking across the tiled floors. When she entered a room, silence fell. She had a way of standing with her arms crossed, eyes sharp as glass, scanning every detail until someone broke under the weight of her gaze. A baker once said, "Working for Velda is like walking on a tightrope with knives on both sides. You can't slip, you can't breathe wrong, or you're cut to pieces." She inspected uniforms with military precision. Hair out of place? Right up. Shoes not polished? Right up. Smiling at the wrong moment? Right up. A young cashier once laughed with a colleague while cleaning the counter, and Velda appeared out of nowhere, her voice cold. "Is this a comedy club or a place of business?" she asked. The cashier apologized, but Velda's eyes narrowed. "Save your apologies. Pack your things. Laughter doesn't pay rent." The girl was gone within the hour. But of all her rules, none inspired more bitterness than her food policy. At the end of each day, trays of unsold bread and pastries were gathered, carried to the back alley, and destroyed. Perfectly good baguettes snapped in half. Whole cakes sliced into trash bags. Rolls and croissants drowned in bleach. Employees watched in quiet rage, knowing those same items could have fed families sleeping under bridges just a few streets away. Once, a baker asked timidly, "Madam Velda, could we at least donate some of it? There's a shelter." Velda cut him off with a glare sharp enough to stop his heart. Luxury loses its value when it is given freely. If they want my food, they must pay for it. Otherwise, it belongs in the trash. The staff never asked again. Sometimes, homeless men or women lingered near the dumpsters, hoping to snatch something before bleach was poured. Security was instructed to chase them away. Velda's reasoning was simple. She said, "If beggars eat from our trash, it cheapens the brand." Her words spread like poison among her employees, who swallowed their disgust because they needed their wages to survive. Single mothers with children, immigrants desperate for a foothold, students paying tuition. They stayed silent, endured her cruelty, and prayed for another job to open somewhere else. Velda thrived on their silence. She mistook fear for respect, obedience for admiration. She thought she was invincible, and for years, she was. Her empire grew, her face appeared on billboards, and she believed she had conquered life itself, until her body reminded her she was still mortal. It started with fatigue she couldn't shake, then swelling in her ankles, then headaches that blurred her vision. She ignored it all, pushing through, until one morning, during a meeting with investors, her legs buckled beneath her. She collapsed in a room filled with people who thought she was unshakable. The hospital machines told a truth she could not silence. Her kidneys were failing. Stage 4. Without a transplant, her time was running out. Velda, even then, did not humble herself. "So fix it," she demanded of the doctor. He shook his head. "We can keep you on dialysis, but you need a donor. Do you have family? Friends?" She said nothing. She had no husband, no children, no siblings she was close to. Friends? The kind of life she lived left no room for that. The doctor's silence told her everything. Without help, she was doomed. So she turned to the only people she thought she still controlled, her employees. An email went out that very evening. It announced that Madame Velda, beloved founder of Velda's Vault, required a kidney transplant. Anyone willing to be tested as a donor would be rewarded with lifetime employment, full medical coverage, and a $50,000 cash bonus. Velda read the draft herself, nodded, and believed it was enough. Money always opened doors. Money always bent people to her will. She thought dozens of workers would step forward, desperate for the reward. But no one did. Days passed. The silence was louder than any response. In staff rooms, workers whispered bitterly. "She never even let us take home a slice of bread," one said. "And now she wants a kidney?" Another muttered. "She called us replaceable. Looks like she's the one who's replaceable now." When the email leaked to the internet, it was the beginning of her ruin. Screenshots spread like wildfire. Alongside them came stories, former workers speaking out, videos of ruined food in dumpsters, confessions of cruelty that Velda had buried under fear. One viral clip showed a full tray of bread, perfectly fresh, being drowned in bleach. The caption read, "She'd rather poison it than share it." Millions watched in horror. Hashtags rose. People wrote, "She wasted food, and now no one will give her life." Velda's empire collapsed overnight. Investors fled, customers boycotted, stores shut down. She watched her fortune dissolve while strapped to dialysis machines, her health failing. Her name now spat like a curse. She tried calling old employees, hoping someone might soften, but no one answered. No one cared. For the first time in her life, she was utterly alone. And it was only the beginning. Velda returned home after another exhausting session of dialysis, her once grand penthouse now feeling like a gilded prison. The mirrors showed her a thinner, weaker version of the woman she had once been. The sharp lipstick was gone, the flawless hair unkempt, the power suits replaced by hospital gowns. She had always believed her empire would shield her from loneliness, but the silence in those rooms mocked her. Wealth was useless when no one cared if she lived or died. One evening, a knock echoed through the emptiness. Velda frowned. She rarely had visitors. She opened the door to find a man with worn clothes and weary eyes holding a plastic container. "Soup," he said simply. "You look like you could use some." Velda stiffened. "Who are you?" "You don't remember me," the man said with a faint smile. "Years ago, I used to sit outside your bakery, 9th Street. One night, I asked for bread. You had security throw me out." The memory flickered, faces blurred by years of indifference, one among many she had dismissed. Shame flickered through her chest, but pride forced her voice cold. "Why are you here now?" The man shrugged. "Because I know what it feels like to be ignored, and because kindness isn't about who deserves it." He left the soup and walked away. Velda stared at it for hours before hunger forced her to eat. The next day, he returned. His name was James. He wasn't wealthy, he wasn't powerful, and he certainly wasn't a kidney match. But he showed up, day after day, week after week. He carried groceries, sat with her through treatments, and sometimes just listened while she spoke in fragments she had never dared admit aloud. For the first time, Velda saw what loyalty looked like when it wasn't purchased. James wanted nothing from her. He simply gave. She didn't know how to accept it at first. But over time, the Ice Queen thawed. Months later, the hospital called. A donor had been found. A stranger across the country had chosen to give their kidney, and Velda was saved by someone she would never meet. The surgery was successful, her life spared. But she emerged from it changed. The penthouse was sold. The empire was gone. She vanished from the spotlight without announcement. People forgot about her scandal as new stories took its place. But Velda was not idle. She moved into a modest apartment in a quiet neighborhood where no one knew her name. And once a week, she walked to a soup kitchen. She tied on an apron, stood behind the counter, and ladled soup into bowls. Sometimes she baked pastries, simple, comforting ones, and handed them out with a smile. Most people didn't recognize her. To them, she was just another volunteer. Some who did recognize her whispered in disbelief, but she never explained. She no longer cared about branding, reputation, or wealth. All she cared about was that no food went to waste, that no one left hungry if she could help it. When asked why she came every week, she would say softly, "Because for too long I gave nothing, and I learned the hard way that you can't take anything with you when the world leaves you behind." The only thing worth keeping is what you've given away. The city forgot the Ice Queen. The world moved on from her scandal. But in that small kitchen filled with warmth, Velda found something she had never tasted in all her years of power: peace.